In 1519, the same year that Magellan left for Asia, this man, Hernando Cortés, sailed from Spain with a fleet of 11 ships and 600 men, hoping to conquer Mexico. At that time, most of Mexico was ruled by Montezuma II, the emperor of the Aztec tribe, whose magnificent capital of Tenochtitlan was built where modern-day Mexico City now stands. This part of Mexico was the center of Mexican civilization. In fact, hundreds of years before the Aztecs, an ancient tribe called the Teotihuacans built the enormous temple seen here. When Cortés arrived in Mexico, the Aztecs, who were probably the most advanced civilization in the New World, at first welcomed him, thinking he was a messenger from one of their gods. But Cortés wanted conquest, and there was little the Aztecs could do to stop him. For the Spaniards possessed deadly cannons and guns, and the Aztecs did not. They also possessed metal armor to protect themselves from spears and arrows, and the Aztecs did not. And the Spaniards had horses to carry men and supplies, and the Aztecs did not. So with advantages like these, and with the help of other tribes who hated the Aztecs, it took only a few years for Cortés to bring Spanish rule to Mexico. And just 10 years later, in 1531, a similar scene was played out in Peru when the forces of Francisco Pizarro destroyed the magnificent Inca Empire. After Peru and Mexico fell to Spain, men such as Coronado and De Soto set off to explore lands that are today part of the southern United States, lands which they claimed for Spain. And by the mid-16th century, most of the newly discovered parts of the world had been colonized by Spain and Portugal, according to the terms of the Treaty of Tordesillas. Under this treaty, worked out in 1494, the Pope awarded all the newly discovered lands to the west of a certain line to Spain, while all those to the east went to Portugal. But these arbitrary restrictions did not sit well with other European nations, and starting in the late 16th century, they began to found their own colonies. And as these global empires expanded, world exploration grew at a rapid pace. Most European nations grew richer because of the things their colonies produced, such as gold, silver, furs, sugar, or cotton. But things changed even more in the places where the colonies were established. For as European customs were introduced, native customs and languages began to disappear. Here in Mexico, for example, temples where tens of thousands of human sacrifices had been performed each year were torn down and replaced by churches. Missionaries arrived in large numbers, and native people became Christians. European tools and inventions were brought to the colonies. And as more and more settlers arrived from Europe, the native people were sometimes enslaved. But the greatest change was the destruction of up to 80% of the Native American population from diseases accidentally carried to the New World by the Europeans.